HD1 Detroit. This is the Mildred Gaddis Show on 105.9 KISS FM, a Beasley Media Group station.
Black people must stand up and fight, because if we don't, we're not going to be here.
I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.
Named one of the most astute political minds in southeastern Michigan by Time Magazine, Mildred Gaddis, the queen of talk radio, going where other journalists won't.
As much as we say or think that we're being inclusive, the reality is we're not.
Bridging the gap between communities and the nation. A voice for the people. The Mildred Gaddis Show is now live on 105.9 KISS.
Here's an inspirational moment from Pastor Marvin L. Winans of Perfecting Church.
Philippians 2:3 says, "Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves." Allow me to be blunt and say, it's not about you. Today's theme seems to be, it's all about me. And with that mentality, each man is left to fend for himself, which breeds a selfish and non-fulfilling existence. Your decision should not only benefit you, but your family, neighbors, and community, for we are our brother's keeper. In so doing, we will find true and meaningful success. It's not all about you, but it is all about us, which includes you.
You've just heard an inspirational moment from Pastor Marvin L. Winans of Perfecting Church on the Mildred Gaddis Show.
I still believe in marriages made in heaven, and that love will conquer all. I've been hurt, but not deceived. Regardless to what has happened, I still believe. Still believe.
The Mildred Gaddis Show is now live on 105.9 KISS.
Good morning and welcome to the Mildred Gaddis Show on this wet Sunday morning. Today's forecast is calling for rain throughout the morning and a high today around 61 degrees. And we're still going to get some winds, however, not as high as they have been. 313-568-1059 is our number here on the Mildred Gaddis Show. Okay. Everybody's recovering, those who were victorious and certainly those who lost in this past Tuesday's election. And we're going to be talking about that this morning here on the Mildred Gaddis Show, the day that the numbers went down. Yeah. Based upon all the predictions by the experts. What really happened on Tuesday, folks? Let's talk about that here on the Mildred Gaddis Show. And, of course, as I understand it, and of course, Mr. Ellis Liddell from ELE Wealth Management is going to join us in the next segment of the show to talk about what those numbers meant in terms of the stock market. Something interesting happened. I know Mr. Liddell is probably going to say, well, that's the way it goes. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a former Wayne County executive, not the executive, and an executive position at Wayne County and in some other institutions around the city, was finally, his case finally went through the court. It was one of the quietest things that I've noticed in the media. We heard very little about it. We're going to talk about that, talk with some people you know as well, so get ready for that. But first, this is a story I was totally unfamiliar with. And it has to do with a former executive from you guys, I know this, right? Whirlpool, who happens to be suing the Michigan State Police over a drunken driving arrest. We're going to talk with the attorney handling the case, and we're going to talk with the alleged victim as well. First, we want to say good morning to Mr. Dakarai Larriett, who is the plaintiff in this case, and Miss Shawndrica Simmons, who is his attorney. I want to say good morning to both of you all. How are you?
Good morning, Mildred. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
First of all, Mr. Is it Larriett or Larriett?
Larriett, perfect.
Larriett. Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to the show. Walk us through this story, please.
Sure. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Essentially, I was driving while black through Benton Harbor, dropping off a friend, and we noticed the emergency lights come on as we approached his house. And from there, the police continued to escalate throughout the night. So with no probable cause, I was stopped. I was then asked to get out of the car. I then did the sobriety test for about 30 minutes in my pajamas. I passed the test. And despite all of that, I was handcuffed and taken to the local hospital. I immediately tested negative for alcohol, but that was not enough. So then they decided to jail me.
Now, after jailing you, obviously these troopers thought that you were intoxicated or whatever. Walk us through that situation.
Oh, sure. So their explanation at that point was that I was likely using marijuana while driving, so I needed to sober up, which is still a little bit inexplicable because in the state of Michigan, recreational use of marijuana is allowed. So why couldn't I just walk across the street to my house and sleep and sober up there? But they just were intent on humiliation and implicating me in some type of drug charge that evening.
What time of the night was it?
Again,
what time
It was actually morning. It was 3 a.m. So they pulled me over at 3 a.m. The sobriety test and what I call the torture happened from about 3 to 5 a.m. And I was booked at about 5 a.m. formally and lodged in the Berrien County Jail. And that whole process, I just have never experienced anything like it before. As you mentioned a little bit earlier, I was an executive at Whirlpool. I have never even been arrested before. So I go through the booking process. I provide my personal details, turn over all of my personal effects. And throughout that process of being booked, they scanned me as if I were going through TSA and noticed some type of anomaly in my stomach, as they describe it. So they sent me through the metal detector or the screening machine 4 or 5 times that night. And while that was happening, the lead trooper, George Kanyuh, loudly and very rudely asserted that that looked like a bag of drugs in my stomach. So from there, I later needed to use the restroom. I had to go to the restroom publicly. And again, that trooper, George Kanyuh, yelled at me, "Don't flush."
Now, they assumed that this anomaly in your stomach was a bag of drugs of some sort.
Just a bag of drugs, yes.
Okay, that
which blew my mind because I have no experience at all with the drugs.
And you were instructed by a trooper to relieve yourself on a toilet where they could take a view of what you were doing and and encourage you not to flush.
Oh, yes. It was like the Globe Theater for pooping.
Joining us, of course, as I said earlier, is your attorney, Shawndrica Simmons. Attorney Simmons, how are you this morning?
I'm surviving and thriving, Ms. Gaddis. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. Where does the infractions, because I have to ask this question, of course, it seems obvious to me where they allegedly were, but what are the infractions in this experience that yielded this $10 million lawsuit?
So there were several. The main one, I'm sorry, it seems like there's feedback. Give me 1 second. The main one is that there was no reason for you to even pull him over in the first place. So once he received a video from FOIA, you can see that he did not run any traffic lights. There was no no pretextual reason why you needed to pull him over other than you saw two black men driving in a very expensive car in the early morning hours. And so now we have that. And now you've pulled him out of the vehicle and asked him to do several sobriety tests, which the video shows he passed. Yet somehow the troopers made up in their mind that he didn't. So now we're violating his rights by making up things on him that are not happening. Then the video later shows that they're having a conversation regarding drugs and a stash, and that can lead someone to believe that you're trying to plant things on him. They have said now, since the lawsuit has been filed, that they were talking about breathalyzers or straws and things like that. But if you were going to test whether or not he was intoxicated through a breathalyzer test, that should have been the initial. And it wasn't done at all. Nor did you inform him of that or ask him. So that leads credence to the fact that that's not what you were looking for. You were possibly trying to plant drugs on him. And then to get to the point where he has to park his car, come in the police car, be arrested, go through all these things to prove that he, again, is still not inebriated, and that still is not good enough. And he's forced to stay at the police department, not leave, stay. And when he spoke about the machine looking at his stomach and the anomalies, they had a tech there that couldn't read the machine. So the level of incompetence of things that should not have happened that night have amounted to you violating his civil rights. Why did you pull him over in the first place? Why did you put him through all of these things when anybody looking at the video can see that he passed? So it has to be something else other than a traffic stop. This is a black man driving in early morning hours with another black man in an expensive car. And my client didn't speak about the fact that they kept talking about his expensive car like he shouldn't have it. Mm-hmm. It was weird. The whole interaction was just weird and uncalled for. And as a result of that, it has left taken a mental toll on my client. He can't let it go. And I can understand why. If you watch the videos, this will be playing over and over in my head every day. And so as a result of that, his civil rights have been violated. There was no reason for you to pull him over, nor to put him through all the things that you did. And they won't wipe the record clean that none of this happened. And they can't. They have the ability to do so, and they refuse to.
Mr. Larriett, explain how they allegedly tried to plant drugs in your vehicle.
Okay, happy to. So keep in mind, this incident happened April 10th. My lawyer and I have been fighting for the FOIA documents and videos for 5.5, 6 months. We finally get them at the end of September. Now, there are about 10 videos, and they're botched and they're edited and they're dubbed, but one of those videos was clean, relatively clean. And at the 3:25 a.m. mark, we see Trooper George Kanyuh rifling through his squad car for a period of 3 minutes. And that's a very long time to look through your car. He's in the side panel of his door. He's in the back seat. He's in the trunk. And then finally, the second trooper, Matthew Okaiye, comes around to the back of the car. And he says, "Drugs?" Kanyuh replies, "I don't think I have any. I had a stash in here. I don't know where it's at." He's going to refuse anyway. And obviously the refusal, if you think about everything I did that night, the only thing I would refuse would be an unlawful, illegal search of my vehicle.
What has the state police produced to substantiate their allegations?
At this point,
nothing.
I'm sorry. At this point, they haven't produced. We have had preliminary interviews with higher ups within the state police department, and they have requested, since we filed the lawsuit, to have follow-up but all they're doing is trying to gather information from us, but not to fix the situation.
What happens once they get the information they're asking from you? Is this that segment of the process that's called discovery?
So at this point, they have not been served with the actual lawsuit formally. They do have the lawsuit, hasn't been served formally because they refused to waive service. So we're formally serving them this weekend and this upcoming week. Once they get that, then the court will kick out what's called a scheduling order. Part of that scheduling order will be the discovery process where we are to exchange requests for information and gather information. Yes, Ms. Gaddis.
Counselor, excuse me, for some reason you're breaking up.
Can you hear me now, Ms. Gaddis?
Thank you. Now we can all hear you. Thank you so much. Now, so we're talking about 7 field sobriety tests. What's normal?
That's not normal. As a former cop lawyer, usually you get one test and they'll pick which one. If that one fails, then they'll go to a second one. But to have multiples, and at this point 7, it's the level of ridiculousness is at an all-time high with this traffic stop. If you suspected him of being intoxicated, there were things that you could have done to initially find out. It didn't even matter because the trooper who did the stop, he was a young trooper. He has a history of being biased and discriminatory online. They've since scrubbed his social media. So we know that he has these internal biases. But you were young, it seemed like you were gung-ho, and you were determined to do something that night to prove yourself, to put some stars on your jacket. I don't know. But the protocol that he embarked upon was uncalled for. There's no reason to do that many field tests. And it was cold. And you could see my client visibly shaking. But because it's cold outside, even one of the other trooper acknowledged, I understand it's cold, but it's not going to be that much longer. Well, how much longer is it going to be? If you have administered all these tests and he's passing. But somehow in their mind, they conjured up, I think it's something else. I think it's something else. What do you mean you think it's something else? If every test you're administering, he's passing, what else would it have been other than you're trying to do something?
Mr. Larriett, did you have a passenger in your vehicle with you?
Yes, I did. So we had pulled up to his home, and I was dropping him off for work.
And did he witness this, or had he gone into the house?
Well, he witnessed the entire thing, and I'm so grateful because he was able to keep the troopers out of my car.
How so?
Well, by physically being there. We have a second video, which we've not really disclosed because it's so edited, so doctored by the Michigan State Police. But largely the discussions that my friend experienced were, is this really your car? This is a nice Cadillac. Where did he get it from?
This is as I've read Teresa Baldus' story, who is a great journalist, by the way. This story has not circulated as widely, perhaps now it has, as one would expect based on the nature of the allegations. Has anything at all happened to any of these cops? There were 2 of them?
Well, Mildred, I believe that we were definitely up against a historic event earlier in the week. So I understand that, and I'm very pleased with the attention we did get. But in terms of the troopers, they're fully employed. I'm now working with State Rep Joey Andrews in his office, and we'll be reaching out to the governor in the next couple of weeks to ask that they engage, because ultimately the Michigan State Police report to the governor.
Now, Are you living in Benton Harbor?
No. So at the time, I lived in St. Joseph, Michigan, which is like the sister city
next door
of Benton Harbor.
Yeah.
Exactly. I lived there for 4 years and worked for Whirlpool as an executive. When the incident happened, I was 3 weeks away from moving back to Alabama, which is my home state.
So where do we go from here? I understand that a counselor, that this experience and his allegations of what happened to him fall under the civil rights umbrella. Is that correct? Factually correct?
That is correct.
What makes this case any different from the regular abuse by police?
I'm not sure that it's making it different, other than showing that it's the same business as usual for them when it comes to driving while black, driving while gay, driving under the guise that you shouldn't have something that you do have because you're black. And that's what we are addressing. The fact that he should be able to operate a vehicle without harassment, because this is basically what it boils down to.
And I just don't think anything changes until the laws change. So as soon as we get these troopers terminated, because they are literally still harassing citizens, black citizens in Benton Harbor, who reach out to me daily, I want to immediately pivot to the legislation. So we need a motorist bill of rights. We need expectations around what can happen at a traffic stop in Michigan, Alabama, or Hawaii. What tests are allowed, and what does pass-fail, ABC. And then finally, the last piece that has been so eye-opening to me is what happens to the evidence? I've spent $600 so far just getting my own FOIA video, which is ridiculous. No one has money for that in this economy. I've spent $2,200 running forensic analysis to confirm what I already know, that the videos are doctored. Okay, so if you're doing the math, we're up to $3,000 now. I have to hire an attorney to muscle these guys to get my evidence. So it's a whole racket that they're going after people in Benton Harbor who can't afford to defend themselves in such a robust manner. So I want to put together policy that says you can only do this at a traffic stop. This is pass-fail, and then this is how ultimately the victim, in my case, gets the evidence. I think within 24 hours, you should get all of the evidence as the principal of the stop, free of cost.
Here is, I know the media in this town spends a lot of money, specifically the newspapers, with the FOIA piece and others who want to file lawsuits and conduct investigations. So I certainly understand that. But one of the things you didn't share with this audience is that one of the two troopers is black. And
yes.
Yeah. And he allegedly told you, I know right now you feel fine. You're a smart, intelligent guy. And you've done nothing but complain with us. I don't want you to feel that you've been mistreated by my partner in any way. If you do feel that you've been mistreated, I'll give you my business card. We care about your safety in the end. So he says to you, if you feel you've been mistreated, here's my business card. Now he's a trooper on the street, as is the case with his partner. What was he going to do for you? What was he promising?
Well, he did give me his business card, and I did ultimately use that business card to follow up on getting my driver's license back. So that, I don't know if we mentioned, was confiscated for 2.5 months. So we did have one or two interchanges, and then ultimately I believe they kind of punted it over to their sergeant.
So you tell the trooper that you were mistreated in jail. And one of the things he says to you, I believe you're a good dude. So, okay, the story's out now.
It's also performative.
Pardon me?
It's performative. It was all performative because when you put together the video, you see, for example, the animus started before they even stopped me and got me out of the car. So both of the troopers made fun of my name. Okaiye, who has a beautiful Nigerian name, just like my own Bantu name, made a very awkward, exaggerated accent pronunciation of my name. And then Kanyuh, the white officer, calls me Dakarai. I hope you're not drinking daiquiris. This is all before they got out of the squad car.
The state police have the official lawsuit, but officially it hasn't been delivered to them. Am I clear on that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's an interesting thing. How do they get the lawsuit if it's not official?
So when the investigating sergeant reached out to me again to try to interview my client again, I stated that I had already filed a lawsuit. If you would like to accept service, I've attached it to this email. And if you would like to accept service and do the waiver, I attached the waiver as well. Because what you can do is just send the lawsuit via email or regular mail fax and send them a waiver, and they can just waive the regular service. And he just refused.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay. So you plan to have him served when?
Formally served. The process server has the documents now, so it's just a matter of time right now.
This week?
Hopefully. They get to do 3 passes, so that means if they don't get them on the first time, they'll try a second. If they don't get them on the second, they'll try a third. So it's a waiting game at this point.
What happens if they don't accept it the third time?
Then I'll request an extension for a new summons, and then I'll try again.
Now, this is not something that can just go on and on.
No, at some point I can do a request for alternative service, meaning that I should be able to serve them in alternative ways, meaning posting or via email or via fax or something like that. I can ask for alternative service.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll see where this goes. This is a very interesting lawsuit. It's an important one, certainly. And I was listening to your client talk about the need for legislation. Now, you all need to be very clear that the newly elected, the president-elect has said that one of the first things he's going to do when he gets into office is to sign an executive order that would ensure that no police officers were going to be charged for killing people on the street or in any situation such as that. Fortunately, this is not that kind of case, but it's certainly connected in some way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. It's very scary.
Yeah, interesting. Well, thanks for sharing the story. What would you like to leave our listeners with this morning? Either of you.
I would like for the listeners. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, for me, the key point is this can't happen again. Step number one, we've got to get these troopers off the street, off the force. So please advocate through the governor and James Grady, Colonel of Michigan State Police, to wrap up this investigation and get these troopers off the street. That's step number one. And I do believe that will send a chilling effect through the force that this behavior is unacceptable. And then we'll work together on the legislation piece afterward, because this can't happen again.
I want to thank you both for joining us this morning, and I hope you'll keep us posted as this process moves along.
Will do.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, and have a great week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.